Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Mi'kmaq fishermen have been subjected to acts of intimidation by non-Indigenous fishers this week, and events have been escalating. Reporting on the ground in southern Nova Scotia, here's Angel Moore.
I'm here at Saulnier Wharf, where there was a standoff between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Police were here and words were exchanged. Tensions are high since yesterday when Sebenagadi First Nation launched their moderate livelihood fishery. Since then, traps have been cut and flares have been fired at boats. Behind me, community members have met as they decide how to proceed next. They're here to stay, to keep an eye on their boats and their gear. Angel Moore, APTN National News, St. Mary's Bay, Nova Scotia.
Joining us now for some more context regarding the recent conflicts over Mi'kmaq fishing rights is APTN's Trina Roach. Trina is Mi'kmaq and has been covering the Atlantic beat for over 20 years. Trina, thanks for being with us. Events are developing quickly there. What's the latest?
You know, it's very tense on the wharf down in Saulnierville and the other wharves around St. Mary's Bay. There was 2 arrests made earlier today by RCMP in Weymouth, which is not that much further from Saulnierville, which is where the Sebenagadi Band has their boats. So Weymouth is down the road. There was an altercation. 2 people were arrested for assault. They were then released, and charges haven't been laid yet because the RCMP are still investigating. So we don't know who those 2 individuals were, if they were Mi'kmaq or non-Mi'kmaq fishermen down there, or even if they were men or women. So at this point, not a lot of detail. But the RCMP are investigating a series of complaints related to mischief, shots being fired, and uttering threats. So there's a lot going on. It's really ramping up. And you know, yesterday, the Sebenagadi Band decided to drop traps. They had a ceremony. The mood was very celebratory. Mi'kmaq had come from all over the province to witness this, kicking off of a moderate livelihood fishery. But by yesterday afternoon, there was a lot of tension. Non-Mi'kmaq fishermen, out on the boats, dozens of boats out on the water, sort of trying to keep the Mi'kmaq from dropping traps, cutting traps that were dropped in the water. And now today, these arrests. And so the chiefs in Nova Scotia, the Mi'kmaq chiefs, have actually declared a state of emergency because of the violence and because of the political unrest. And they're calling on the RCMP to protect their Mi'kmaq fishermen and anyone who's down there supporting the fishermen. So it's very tense. And I'm just looking at the state of emergency. They have it till September 22nd. Not a lot of details on what that means necessarily, the state of emergency, but that they have it until September 22nd with the possibility of an extension, because other bands also have management plans and are also planning to drop traps. I've heard October 1st, which is Treaty Day, to kick off their moderate livelihood fisheries. So this is going to keep going. And we have Angel Moore on the ground right now in Saulnierville, but this is a story we're going to be covering for a long time.
That is a lot going on. Let's take a step back, though. You've been covering this story for 2 decades. What's important for people to understand here?
You know, I think that what's really important is just, that this is not an illegal fishery, that the Mi'kmaq have a treaty right that was upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada to earn a moderate livelihood, to make a living from the resources, so fishing, hunting, and gathering. And so, the problem is that Canada hasn't implemented that decision, that they have no rules around a moderate livelihood fishery. And so in the eyes of DFO and certainly in the eyes of the non-Mi'kmaq fish harvesters down there, they're calling it an illegal fishery. There's some concerns about, conservation. There's a rhetoric around conservation, I should say, because the science doesn't back that up. Like the lobster stocks in St. Mary's Bay, where the Sebenagadi Band is fishing, are healthy, and DFO's own science shows that. But it's kind of been this battle cry It was a battle cry in Burnt Church by the non-Mi'kmaq fishermen, and you still hear it today. But it's just not true. And the danger with that language is it kind of creates a narrative that the Mi'kmaq are doing something wrong. And so we have to be really careful, because what really needs to happen is that Canada needs to implement the Marshall Decision.
There are larger implications here. Trina, can you briefly tell us a bit about those?
Yeah, just really briefly, like this is not just a story about fishing on the East Coast. It's not just a story about lobster. This is a story about how Canada handles treaty rights. You know, and there's negotiation tables across the country, inherent rights or inherent framework agreements, and so you know, this is important to everybody. This is because this really speaks to how Canada handles Aboriginal and treaty rights. You know, if they're not implemented, if they're ignoring a court decision after 21 years, you know, what does that sort of mean? I mean, Indigenous people have a lot of wins in court, but if they're not being implemented into law, then what does that mean? So it's something people should pay attention to. And this story is not, like I said, it's unfolding. We're going to be watching very carefully to see what happens next.
Trina, I appreciate you joining us here to give us a broader context on what's taking place.
All right, thank you, Dennis.
Tati Andre, an elder from Matimekosh, Lac-John in Quebec, is the Innu Nation's first member to die from COVID-19 complications. Andre was once a chief in Matimekosh, a remote community located near the Quebec-Labrador border. Radio Canada reports that Andre left the community in early September to visit friends and likely contracted COVID-19 during a stopover in Quebec City. He was hospitalized in Ottawa for 2 weeks before passing away at age 74. He is believed to be the first COVID-related death in the Côte-Nord region of Quebec. Daily COVID-19 numbers have started to rise in provinces across the country. Ontario reported 401 new cases of COVID-19 today. First Nations are also reporting cases. In Manitoba, there are 2 in Peguis, 1 in Fisher River, and 2 in Saugeen First Nation. In BC, 3 First Nations are reporting their first cases in recent weeks. The Nisga'a Nation in northern BC had 3 confirmed cases. The Heiltsuk First Nation in Bella Bella has 2 new cases, and their Central Coast neighbor, Nulhuk Nation in Bella Coola, also has 2 confirmed cases. As of September 17th, Indigenous Services Canada has confirmed 564 cases of COVID-19 on First Nations across Canada, with 9 deaths and 476 recoveries. Coming up, it's the 30th anniversary of a major event in the Mohawk Uprising in 1990. We'll revisit that moment in history after the break. Here's a look at your Saturday weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Showers and 10 for St. John's, rain and 16 in Halifax, 10 and partly cloudy in Nain, 11 for Happy Valley at Goose Bay, 13 in Montreal, 10 in Saguenay, 6 and rain in Chibougamau, 13 in Toronto, 14 under sunny skies for Ottawa, 15 in showers in Thunder Bay and Sioux Lookout, 17 for Churchill, 19 in God's Lake and Norway House, 23 for Winnipeg and Gimli, 19 and sunny in Barons River, 27 for Regina, 28 in Saskatoon and North Battleford, 20 in Uranium City and Stony Rapids. Welcome back. 30 years ago, the Mohawk Uprising of 1990 was nearing its end. Despite the reopening of the Mercier Bridge, Kahnawake was still living under military occupation. Army checkpoints and police raids were just part of everyday life until September 18, 1990. That's when the Army flew helicopters into Degaweta Island, and the community of Kahnawake stood up and forced them to leave. Here's the story in the words of the people who were there.
I got a call and they said, you better get to the island because the military has landed there. They brought him in by helicopter.
That was a difficult day.
You know, it smacked of an invasion with the end to occupy.
I knew instinctively they weren't there just to protect the SQ who were looking for weapons. They were there to come across that bridge, march through the community, and show that, you know, they had taken over and they're going to take over.
There were reports supposedly that at the boat club or the yacht club, whatever it was called, at the very tip of the island, that there had been some weapons stashed there and this and that. And the aim was to go cordon off the area, search it, and get out.
We were not expecting it, but once we saw the helicopters come down, of course, the community reacted.
Sadly, the helicopters flew right over the reserve, and anybody just had to look up and knew what was going on, and you know, the people moved towards the source.
So I went to the forefront right away, and I saw whoever their commander was, and I said, "You're crazy. You better get the hell out of here. You have no business coming here."
It was a standoff, essentially. Everyone was there, everyone. Joe Norton was giving them shit.
And then my role was just to keep in between, and with the help of others, I said, "Look, guys, we got to keep a barrier between them, our people and them, because we don't want this to turn into a bloodbath."
Nowhere you can go if they're got gas now. Go back up on.
People were like in a frenzy saying, "They're here, they're on the island. What are we going to do?"
What the community did was they went out to meet them. So there was no what you call a no man's land at all. They were face to face.
And that started, I don't know, 8, 9, 10-hour battle after that.
It was just insane. It was chaotic.
We had to hold the bridge. We pushed them back. We couldn't let them take the bridge.
That's the bridge that they attempted to come across, to come into the community and march through the community. And that's the area really where the people stood their ground.
And we tried to actually push them off the island.
Then they started to throw the tear gas, and all the people that were here tried to escape it by hiding under the bridge here.
It was burning, stinging, coughing, but we stepped on the other side of the tear gas because the wind was blowing it that way. And the people were just like going across the bridge here, going to the forefront and starting to throw rocks, starting to fight and saying, you're not coming, you're not coming here. We won't allow you across the bridge. We pushed them back constantly, back and back and back, further and further and further away from this area.
And then one of them, I forget his name, he was a really nice kid, long black hair, broad face, big guy, and he just jumped out of the line he was in and started bashing this kid soldier. And then everyone started to do the same thing. And that's when they shot into the air, the soldiers. And everyone backed off, of course, but not much.
The women were right in there, and they got their hands on the troops as much as the men did.
Most of the people that were doing the screaming and yelling, I'm not saying all, most were women.
We listened to our women. You know, our society is a matriarchal society.
Attacking them.
The troops or whoever's in charge, I think, just thought they could roughshod, run right over them, and it just didn't happen.
The troops, you could hear their guns rattle. You could hear the guns rattling as they got I guess their level of anxiety really went up.
They couldn't get out. They were stuck here. They certainly couldn't cross the bridge. There was no way. They assumed this would be a victory for the army. They were wrong.
One of our elders now who has passed away called the men together, and we started making fires. But as that went on, he decided that, you know what, this would be a good time to do a stomp dance.
the helicopters came back, picked everybody up, and they left.
And everybody got together and started doing a stomp dance.
A dance to celebrate our victory. And that's what it was.
Quite something to see. Time for another quick break, but stick around. There's more to come. Here's the rest of your Saturday weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 22 and partly cloudy for Fort McMurray, 20 in Grand Prairie, 25 in Medicine Hat, 21 in Edmonton. 19 with showers for Vancouver, 23 and rain in Bella Coola, 14 with showers for Dease Lake, 15 and rain for Prince Rupert, 12 in Old Crow, 14 in Whitehorse and Beaver Creek, 17 for Yellowknife, 18 in Trout Lake. 2 with a chance of snow for Sax Harbor, rain, and 10 in Pawlatuck. 10 with showers for Chesterfield, Whale Cove, Arviette, and Baker Lake. -4 with snow in Resolute, -1 in Arctic Bay. Welcome back. The Tahltan Nation in northern British Columbia is encouraging its members to hunt bears and wolves. They want to reduce rising populations of grizzly bears and wolves, who they say are killing off their food supply. Lee Wilson has more.
Tahltan Nation's traditional territory makes up nearly 11% of BC. The northern communities are remote. The area is known for world-class mining and hunting, but according to the nation president, Chad Norman Day, the caribou, moose, deer, and other wildlife they depend on are being wiped out by bears and wolves. He says there are now more bears and wolves than community members.
We have seen increased numbers of bears in the communities, and we've heard several stories from community members where they've had encounters with bears and wolves coming into the communities themselves.
The nation is now encouraging their members to exercise their rights to hunt, following cultural practices. This is something they've been doing for thousands of years.
Well, we would traditionally utilize the bones of different animals for tools, for regalia, for different ceremonial purposes. We would eat most parts of the bears, not the wolves, and then we would utilize the furs of black bears, grizzly bears, and wolves for different purposes, for around the dwellings and for clothing and for regalia.
In 2017, British Columbia banned the hunting of grizzly bears, but they say they've been working with the Tahltan on wildlife management and support the Tahltan rights in an email to APTN News. Generally, wildlife populations in the northwest are stable. However, there are areas where declines of some species are observed and documented. The province recognizes, respects, and supports the rights of the Tahltan people to exercise and practice cultural wildlife management practices. Tahltan President Day acknowledges support from the province, but says more action was needed now for the safety of their members. The Tahltan Wildlife Department will oversee the hunting by its members in the territory.
So we are stepping up and utilizing our title and rights as much as we can to help reverse some of the problems that we see. We are ultimately doing this not just for the future of Tahltan people, but for the future of other British Columbians and Canadians as well.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
In Winnipeg, one Cree family is enjoying a gift 3 years in the making. In 2017, Carrie Kirkness lost 3 of her limbs due to a rare illness. Since then, her family has been working to make life as normal as possible for the young mother. Recently, her community has stepped in to help and is urging others to do the same. Brittany Hobson brings us this story.
See, smooth sailing.
It's the simple things that bring Carrie Kirkness joy. Things the general population may take for granted, like being able to sit in your own backyard. The young Cree woman uses a wheelchair. Up until this week, Moving around outside her home was a challenge, but thanks to some renovations, that has changed.
At the end of the ramp, there was always like that dip, I guess. Yeah, so I'd have to go down really slow. And then when I would come back on the ramp, I would need my
we'd hold her.
Yeah.
To ensure that she didn't flip over.
Yeah. So, but it's like smooth sailing. I don't have to like stop and then like slowly go. I could just go now.
Kirkness lost her legs and an arm in 2017 after contracting a rare illness. She ended up in hospital with what she thought was the flu. Doctors later told the family she was dealing with flesh-eating disease caused by an invasive bacteria known as Group A Streptococcus. Loretta Kirkness recalls the moment hospital staff told her they would need to remove her daughter's limbs.
I hoped it was an infection, but I knew it was going to be amputation, because already by that time that you could see the infection spread. It looked like a huge bruise, and it happened so fast, and I knew what was going to happen, but at the same time I prayed that it wouldn't. And he said, I'll give you 15 minutes to decide, and I said, I don't need 15 minutes. Save her.
Kirkness remained in hospital for 5 months before moving in with her parents, her 2 sons, and her siblings. The home had to be renovated to accommodate Kirkness. Most recently, Loretta was trying to make outside more accessible, but she soon realized she was in over her head. The project sat uncompleted until a recent accident prompted Loretta to seek help.
There was just gravel out there, and her tire was spinning. It was spinning and spinning, and then finally when it caught on, her wheelchair took off and she crashed into the barbecue. The corner of it smashed into her chest.
The family is from Opask, Quebec Cree Nation. Shortly after the incident, Loretta reached out to OCN Onekanu Christian Sinclair.
Seeing it firsthand, seeing her where she wasn't even able to get into the backyard with her electric wheelchair, inside it just hit home to be able to say, we can do better than this. We can support Carrie and the family, because it's not only herself as an individual, but her parents, her siblings, and her 2 sons that she lives with.
The community has a partnership with the Winnipeg Construction Group, so Sinclair reached out to them to see if anything could be done. The group decided to complete the renovations free of charge. Loretta says the new addition is everything she envisioned.
I wanted her to make sure she was a part of, instead of just being limited. And now she can sit out there with us and, just watch the cars go by.
Yeah. Watch people walk by.
For Kirkness, it's simply about one thing: independence.
I felt free. Yeah, like I don't have to wait on somebody to come and help me now.
The community now wants to help fundraise for a new accessibility van for the family, and will be launching a GoFundMe later this month. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Nice story. And that's your APTN National News for this Friday. Stay up to date with the very latest by downloading the APTN News app and by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.